Hello, magical ones. Welcome to the Faerie Witch vlog. I'm the Faerie Witch, and today we are going to be doing some art projects. So, today we are going to sculpt these little mushroom ornaments. Makes great little presents. They make great little decorations for your fairy tree or your Christmas tree. So I'm gonna sculpt some of these guys for you guys today, and I thank you for watching. So if you're brand new, if you're a subscriber, if you're a returning viewer, I welcome you. Thank you all for tuning in. Feel free to subscribe to the channel because you never know what you're gonna get or when you're gonna get it. And I generally do a lot of different things, but most of them are related to fairies in some way. So we are gonna do these little fairy mushrooms today. So I have one example here that I just showed you. This one here is a little more realistic. It's already dried, it's already painted, and I did it in the brown, the tans, and just tried to make it look a little more realistic. So you can do some of these with this kind of paint job, but I think I'm probably going to show you the fairy tale version. I want to make some more of these for our fairy tree this year, so I'm going to do this fairy tale one. And this is kind of typical of, stories and novels and all that. So we're going to do this. Alrighty, so I have one already started. And this one's ready to be painted. So I will get into that step at the end. But I am going to show you how I sculpted these in the first place. So I have pretty much everything here and ready to go. I'm going to get my clay out. Some tools in case I need them. And a towel and some water. Okay, so I've got some air dry clay. Alright. And if you're brand new to the channel, just so you know, I am an artist, I am a fairyologist, I am a certified cat trainer, I am a knitter, I teach classes occasionally, and have in the past. And I do have a lot of experience in a bunch of different art forms. Okay, so I've got some clay here. This one might actually be kind of small. Let's add a little bit more. I have made these before. I don't think I did a video of it, but I have made them before. And I kept a couple and I gave some as Christmas presents, I think last year. So I'm got to get the clay to be completely blended together. Try to smooth it out a little. Okay, and then I want to sculpt it all in one piece. Less chance of breakage that way. So I just simply kind of get the top rounded. But I'm going to squeeze out the stem. And then I'm kind of pushing and pulling the top of the mushroom out. Okay. And the clay sometimes wants to crack and break, so you have to, but being that it's really wet and moist, that's good. I just have to try to smooth out those edges and those rough cracks. It can take some time. Okay. And I'm not trying to get them perfect. I don't want them perfect. They don't need to be. In nature, they're not perfect. I just need to get the shape. So I've got the stem, and I've got the top, or the saucer. I just need to turn it. It's kind of big, huh? It really is just disproportioned here. But I'm going to kind of curl them in, curl the edges. And I can kind of squeeze the stem out, though, elongate it a little bit more. So it'd be like that. That's a little better. Okay. But then I need to create a little area in the top because I've got to poke holes through it. Let's get this rough edge out of here. Okay, so I'm going to take my little tool, and then I'm going to poke a hole through the saucer part just enough. So I got to go down, got to go in and down at an angle, and then come back up at an angle. So I got to go down like so. And then I got to come around the other way, do the same thing. Then I got to make sure that I got the hole all the way through. Oop, and it's starting to break. So I've got to push it together a little bit. And I want to get rid of some of the holes. I don't want it to look so big. I don't want the hole to look so obvious. So we're going to push it in a little bit. Whoops. I'm losing my shape. So let's pull that a little bit. Okay, so it kind of pokes a couple holes in there, almost like a pie. But the idea is so I can put my thread through and be able to hang it up when it's dry. So I think that's going to work. Yeah, just got to make sure that it really does go all the way through. So that's what I did. Okay. So that is one little mushroom. He's got a big top, but big saucer. But some of them do look like that. They don't have to be perfect. You just need to get the idea of it. Main thing is just to make sure you've got enough at the top for those holes. And darn it, I can see clay. Okay. Got to make sure that it's clean through the holes. So got to make sure the clay is out of the way. That way your ribbon, because you can use ribbon, you can use twine, you can use string, yarn. I think this is kind of like what I've used here is like a plastic fishing line or something. It's similar. I got it at the hardware store. You could use fishing line too, and it's clear, so you won't see it as much on your tree. So that's what I've got, that's what I'm using. But you can use other things. But you got to make sure the holes are going to be big enough for whatever you're going to use, because yarn and ribbon can be a little bit thicker. So you want to make sure your holes are big enough. Now, if you don't want big holes in the top of your mushroom, then I would recommend using jewelry wire or fishing line or something like this, where it's thinner, it's plastic, it's small, and you can get it through. So, yeah. So this is my first little mushroom. I'm going to do another one. And they have to sit out and dry. So these are air-dried clay. So it's going to take, usually it takes like 2 days, 2 to 3 days for something this small to dry completely before you can paint it. Okay, so we got another hunk. And I gotta work on my hand muscles here while I smudge it together. Okay. Alright, so I've got my bowl started here, so let's work on the stem. So I'm squishing it together. I'm getting my stem worked on. Okay, and it's going to be too big, so I'm going to smush it down a little bit. And then I'm going to cut off the excess here at the end. Round it off. Oops. Okay, it's a little bit long again, so we'll cut off a little more. Okay. Now, we've got to work on the saucer part. So, start squeezing and pushing it in from underneath. Okay, so there's another big saucer. Now, if the saucer is a little bit too big, then I could always just trim the sides and make it smaller, but I actually don't mind it. I think it looks good. Just gotta smooth out some of the cracks that are at the top. Oops. Smoothing out. And then I'm going to curl the edges a little bit by pushing them down. Yeah. Oops. So that we've got the shape. Okay. Alright, so that gets two of them. And, you know, they're close, but they're not exact. They're not exactly the same, which is fine. So then they just have to sit out and dry. And you can put them on like some newspaper and then put them in the sun. That the newspaper helps soak up the moisture in the clay, and so it helps dry them quicker. But you don't have to do that. You can just leave it out, put it in the sun. Okay. So I'm wiping off some of the clay. And the air dry clay, it works really nice. You don't have to put it in the kiln, but if you're going to keep the lid off of it or whatever, you know, try not to. Put the lid back on. But if you find that it's starting to dry out, just sprinkle some water into it and then put the cap back on it. The clay does reabsorb the water. As long as it's not been fired in a kiln, any clay usually will soak up the water and it can fall apart. So if you do make mistakes, you can redo it. But try not to let your clay dry out in the first place. Alright, let me move that out of the way. Okay, so then the next step is to paint them. Whoops. No. Connected. Okay, I'll leave you guys there. So the next step, when the mushrooms are dry, then that is when you're going to paint them. So as I said, I have this one already almost made. I'm going to paint it, and then I'm going to show you how I put the wire on it. And like I said, I am going to paint it this way, the fairy tale way. So, first things first. I'm going to paint the stem first, that way I can hold the saucer part and make it easier. So I'm using a little bit of brown and a little bit of white. And these are water-based craft paints, or you could use acrylics. So either one works well. Alrighty, so I've got some water and I've got some brushes here. So first thing I'm going to do is it's all about combining and layering. And you got to work fairly quickly because the clay soaks up the paint in the water really quick and it dries quick. So you got to be able to move fairly quickly. So I think I'm going to start with the white, and I just start painting the stem and just do like one little section at a time or one side at a time. So I get the white on there first, then I don't clean the brush, I just dip it really lightly in the brown, and then I'm just painting over the white, and the brown gets automatically blended in. And you don't want to lose the white, you don't want to lose the brown. You're just combining. And the idea is to make it fairly realistic. So that's what I'm doing. It's just all about blending. And you just keep going all the way around the stem until it's done. Just do the same technique. At least this is how I do it. Other people may do it differently. That's fine. This is my technique. This is how I do it. Okay. Okay. So it looks fairly realistic, I think. You got just the light browns and the white with blended into it. And you can make it as dark or as light as you want. I am trying to keep it fairly realistic. And so I noticed the mushrooms that I've ever seen, they look kind of, lighter in the stem with a little bit of off color, off white or brown. But then underneath is going to be a little bit more of the same color, but the red, since I'm going to do the fairy tale, the red is going to take over most of the saucer. So I don't need to do a lot of the underneath part here. I'm just going to do maybe a little bit of a circle around the base. And then I can use the red paint when I'm ready. Okay. Alright, so I just did quick inner circle around the base. Alrighty, so I'm going to let that dry for just a couple minutes. And then I'm going to get out the red paint, and I will use that. And I also need a scissor, so let me grab a scissor. Okay, so I got scissors and I've got some wire. So I'm going to cut a little bit of this wire so that it's ready. Okay. So you know, nice length. That might be what, 8 inches, 10 inches long? I'm not sure. So that's ready for the next step. But I'm going to finish painting it first. And then we will start with the red. So let me grab a little something here. I have a little ambiance noise behind me for you. While I grab something else real quick here. And we'll proceed. Alrighty. Alright, so now we're ready to do the red. So let's sprinkle a little fairy dust and see what we can conjure up here as I get this red out, and we're gonna clean the brush. Okay, so I'm just gonna dip it in. I don't need to blend, so I can just use it right out of the bottle. And I'm gonna start underneath. That way it gives a chance to dry before I turn it over to do the top. Okay. So I'm just painting the inside, as you can see. Okay. And I'm just going around, trying to keep it as even as I can, filling in any little cracks. Okay, so I'm almost there. I'm getting there. Almost done with the bottom. Okay. All right, so we've got the bottom of the saucer all painted. It just needs to dry a couple of minutes because then I gotta turn it. So as long as your stem is dry, I could hold it from here. So let me check. I don't want any red on the stem. Okay, that'll work. So I can do the top. And it takes a little bit of time only because there are some little cracks and you've got to make sure that you get the paint in there. That'll help seal the clay too. So it just takes a few minutes to get all of those little guys, all those little nicks filled in. Okay. Almost there. There we go. And you just put on as many coats of paint that you want. If the paint is a little bit watery, you might have to put 2 coats on. You let the first one dry, and then go ahead and do it a second time. This paint is fairly thick, so I don't have to do a second one. Okay, there we are. Okay, so we have the red, all the top, the saucer part is all done, almost. Got a couple little spots there. Go. Cool. Okay, so I need to let it dry a couple minutes because then we're going to add on the little spots, the little white spots. So yeah, you're going to need your white paint again. And I've got a smaller brush. I could use the same one I was using because the head's not really big, but I'm going to go ahead and use the smaller one. It's got a smaller bristle for a little more, better with the dots. So we just got to let this dry a couple minutes. And then I will be back. Okay, let's check it. Yeah, pretty good. Okay, so next step. I'm going to use a dry brush. That way that I don't have too much moisture, because if you put too much moisture on the paint or if it's too runny, it's going to run all over the mushroom top, and then you got to repaint the red again. You have to let it dry and start over. So I'm going to use a dry brush and just stick it into the paint. And then you just randomly put dots on the top of the mushroom as much as you want. And you can make them as big or as small as you think they need to be. Oops. And you try to keep them round. Close to it anyway. Couple little ones here. Oops. Yeah. Alright, so we've got the little dots. So then we just set it aside, let it dry a couple minutes, and then we can thread the wire through. Since I've got paint left, I don't want to waste it. I'm going to try to scoop some of it back into my container. Oops. Okay. Alright, so we are done with the painting part. So I'm just going to let that dry a couple minutes. And then we're going to play with the wire. So one thing, like I say, about this project is it's fun. It doesn't take a lot to do. And as long as you just kind of get the right shape, they'll turn out good, you know. So yeah, so those two little guys, like I say, they have to have a couple days at least to dry. And then I can decide if I want to paint them the more au naturel kind of look, like this, or if I want to do another fairy tale. I'll probably do more fairy tales, although since I did that one, I need to have at least two where they look fairly realistic. But I actually could decorate this and make it more fairy-like. So while we're waiting to finish this one, let me think about that. Maybe we could do something here now on this. Because this is, as it is, it's cute. If you wanted to do like a vegetable tree, you know, a more natural looking tree decorations, this is perfect. But if I want to, you know, since I want to put it on my fairy tree, I need to fairy this up. So I need to think, do I want to add, maybe I could add some glitter to it? That would be cool. Put glitter on the top. That's a thought. Maybe we'll do that. I think I have some glitter right here. So while we're waiting for this little guy to dry, let me see. Alright, so I do have some fairy glitter, and I've got some Mod Podge. So let's play with this a minute. Let's go do this. While this little guy finishes up here. Okay, so I am gonna take my brush and I'm gonna paint the Mod Podge on the top, and then I gotta sprinkle the glitter, and I'm just gonna probably just do the top of it, maybe underneath. So I probably should do the underneath first. Try to make it easier and cleaner as best I can. So let's see. Okay. So let's and Mod Podge works really good. It's great for I do my journaling and my scrapbooking stuff with it. Works really good, and it dries clear, and it does a good job sealing everything. But it does dry quickly, so I need to work with it fast. Okay, so I've got the bottom has got the glitter. I hope you can tell from the lighting. Hopefully, trying to do it. See little sparkles everywhere. Okay, so I'm going to paint over the top. And I only did half because it's going to dry quick. Yeah, there we go. So we're adding some sparkle to it. Let's finish the other side. Oops. There. Okay. So hopefully you can see it now has sparkle on the top. So it may be a little more realistic, but now it looks more fairy-ish. And I like that. I think that's going to work better for our fairy tree this year. So yeah. So there we go. Pretty cool. Oh, there you go. Now you can see hopefully some of the lighting hitting the sprinkles. Okay. Very cool. So then that just needs to sit out here and dry. So I'll put it over there for now. Okay, so I've got my glitter everywhere. It's a mess. Alright, so this little guy, he's dry. Perfect. Okay, so let's get our ribbon here. Oh, let me put a cap on this. I want the Mod Podge to dry out. Okay, so you're going to take your wire and you're going to thread it through the holes. See? Really simple. Pull the two edges, tie it up, just put it in a knot, and you just decide how long of the dangle you want. So let's make it a little bit smaller. And then you just tie the knot at the top as tight as you can without breaking it. And then if you want it to make it a little more secure, you can either double knot it, which I think I probably should do because it feels like it's moving. So let's do that. Okay, so we double knotted it. And if you're still not sure, if you still think that the knot isn't quite right, you could add a little bit of hot glue to it. Just don't let it melt it, but just add a little bit of glue and wrap it around it, and that will keep the knot secure. And then you just trim off the excess wires. There we go. Okay. So there we have another little fairy tale mushroom. Now, if you want to seal this up, like you figure you're never going to repaint it, you're not going to dismantle it in any way in the future, I would recommend getting some ceramic spray or like a spray varnish or something that's good for ceramics and clay work. And you just take it outside or a well-ventilated area and spray it down. You can use like a high gloss, which would make it really shiny, or you could get a matte, what they call matte, M-A-T-T-E, spray, and that means it would be very dull, so it will seal it, but it won't be shiny, it won't be bright, it'll look more natural as to what I've already done here. So I don't have any at the moment, otherwise I would show you, but I don't have any at the moment. So when I get some, I will spray these, and it seals it. So that way, if it were to get wet, and I mean, if you're going to stick it in a bucket, or if you're going to stick it out in the rain or something, no matter what you spray on it, the stuff it's eventually going to fall apart because the clay was not put in a kiln. It wasn't fired in the kiln, so it's not completely, totally impenetrable, but if you're just using it as an ornament, it's going to be indoors, it's not going to be in water. But if you did like drop a few drops, or if like something got sprayed on it, once it's sealed, at least it should hang on to its shape, it should keep the paint on it, you won't have a problem. So it's better to seal it with something. And like I said, if I had some, I'd show you, but I don't at the moment. So, but when I do, I'm going to spray everybody just to make sure all these guys are sealed up. But yeah, so that is our little fairy tale, fairy mushroom, Christmas tree, fairy tree ornaments. I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope you, make some of your own. And like I say, they're great little gifts. You could make like 4 or 5 of them, give them away as a set to somebody that you know who likes fairies. And they're great. They're little ornaments. You can use them all year long, or just at Christmas. So yeah. So thank you so much. I really appreciate you watching this. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that you'll tune into my channel with my other videos. Like I say, there's a whole bunch of other subjects that we do, other things, other crafting, baking, discussions, fairy folklore discussions. There will be more pet videos coming up, like cat training and dog treat cooking and all that. So check all those out. Subscribe if you haven't. I really appreciate it. Donate to our PayPal if you would like. That would be fantastic. And we hope that you have a really good holiday season. And thank you so much for watching. Have a fairy day. We'll see you in the next one.